Hey guys, I've been noticing and thinking of more and more that a theme in this society in which we're living is that knowing too many things and never being able to incorporate what we've learned. That's a theme I've noticed. I know and suspect and feel deep down that many people are picking up on many things, and it never seems to matter that much at all. It doesn't incorporate into anything that we do differently. It's just information that we possess that we will never use, and that's, to me, is the most frustrating concept in the world, is knowing what the solution or the answer to certain things could be and never incorporating it because of the manner in which you have learned these things. It's never going to be an easy thing to discuss the deep down of life. It's never going to be easy or fun to discuss those sort of things, but there's definitely value in doing that. I think that there's a script to life, and our script writers are soulless people that don't want us to have the best outcome. They want, in some form or shape or manner, to keep their thumb on us to make sure we can't progress, and that there's a limited ceiling, and that the ceiling's always dropping. So we're always going to be reaching for a ceiling that is dropping. That is ultimately their goal in this, is to make sure that none of us really have that good of a life, or that we're doing that good in life compared to what we could be. It's always a surface level appearance type of thing. Things look like you're doing okay on the surface. They don't seem like you're that upset or horribly disappointed or completely wronged. They never want it to seem like you're a victim of this system of life, but almost everybody is. They're just experiencing ill effects at different times. It's not going to synchronize or line up, and we're all having awakenings at different times. We're out of whack, quite frankly. There's great effort and care taken to make sure that we're all on different timelines of the same thing, and that we're all feeling different emotions at different times. You know, I may be having a reflective moment of where I'm more empathetic and more thoughtful, as where the person next to me might be experiencing, complete rage and inner turmoil and completely unexpressive. So we all handle things differently. God knows that some people can hang, some people can hack it, other people just can't. They're weak emotionally. They're narcissistic people who are headstrong in the wrong way, and they're never going to empathize or see that their behavior needs to change. They're not the one at fault ever in their mind. There's a mental sickness in this world and a lack of accountability that's very predominant, I've noticed. It's almost as if people are programmed, and they are, to not take any accountability and to be unwilling to admit fault or to point to any of these common denominators as to why they have made mistakes. You know, the powers that be never want to lead back to a real answer as to why things don't happen or why bad things occur. They never want to be blamed for this, which is why I've noticed that's also a theme. People aren't very specific anymore. I can't imagine that most people indulge that the world's changing or different or weird. They're just upholding whatever in that moment. Behind closed doors, they're ratchet weirdos who have been influenced by evil, because they truly are. I've picked up on some things that have occurred that should have never occurred, to be honest, and many things that have been held off in this world. They've been quite literally playing God with fate and destiny and stopping things from happening that need to for the betterment of humankind. And by that, I mean the acknowledgement of the spiritual phenomenon. There's scientific methods to point to how there's a spiritual phenomenon occurring on this earth. Um, there are methods and avenues of people assessing their own vibrational frequency that would tell them that, hey, yeah, you're a cut above, you're not quite of this world. That's the type of thing I've been wanting to prove. And I feel as if it would actually help the planet, but it's just not going to help a bunch of soulless people who don't have their own opinions or thoughts, who are governed by these evil pieces of shit, who are quite literally entities on this planet that don't want anybody to succeed. It's crazy whenever you view life this way, but there's so much pettiness and so much weird, jealous hatred in the world towards certain segments of people that it just astounds me. The depths and depravity of this pure evil within people is almost comical, but it's really kind of scary, actually. Like, I'm not scared of it, but it's a scary concept, I'm sure, for other people. Um, there's also been a theme, too, I've noticed in this society, that you just can't call things what they are. We know how disingenuous they are. If you're a halfway reasonably intelligent person, you know that what you see is not what you get. You're going to be learning a lot if you pay attention and you soak in this information that you perceive all around you, and you factor things in, then you're going to grow. You're going to be like a rolling stone that's growing moss, not the other way around. Um, but yeah, that's the symbolism there. Is you keep it moving forward, but you retain everything you know and you factor it in. You're going to have to get better and more complex as the world gets more convoluted and aiming to bring you down. They're living for the moment that certain people like me make a mistake that they can use against us. That's why I try not to make too many bad mistakes in life. I stick to myself, mind my business, and I am trying to reach people indirectly. I've touched on this in several uploads, but I'm a firm believer in telepathy. I believe that several people on this planet genuinely do experience telepathy, far more than a normal person, but I think all of us do, in some way, shape, or form, pick up on things deep down, so to speak. There's a lot of artificial RF frequency harassment, AI and voice cloning, that sort of thing happening. But over 3 years ago, I found a way to prove that we are hearing what we're hearing deep down. You guys may not be hearing exactly what I'm hearing. We're all perceiving things differently, and there are many levels of cover-up. Like the powers that be, the orchestrators of our misery in this life, they know who the most compatible people are, who would resonate with each other. And the cabal has no interest in soulmates finding, pretty much. Just view it that way. They're in a shadow organization that is real, that is heavily pulling the strings, and they never want us to actualize anything that's of value, anything that's good for us, that's healthy. They all want us in unhealthy and toxic patterns of behavior, or we're just living in an exile, isolated from anything real that could be a good thing for our lives. So it's a testament for people like me to live through this, because we know there's a life beyond this one. And if I was, really thinking about it a different way, then maybe I would just ascend to a higher platform and do something different. But I can't help but feel like I just need to keep pressing along, and one day the system of life is going to crumble, and I and others will be standing there saying, yeah, I knew it. Like, tried to tell you guys, we tried to allude to this, we tried to do this and that, and it just never added up, because of all the methods of aversion and all the bells and whistles that you guys have in the cabal and these other cults that are harming the planet. Anyway, the problem with all of this is that it does lead to a false reality in which it is necessary to actually have a double life in some degree, some way more dramatically than others, but most of these double lives that people have now, that have been instilled in them, have come about because they just do too much wrong in their personal life, and they can't accept accountability. The nature of this hive mind and the police state that this has created an atmosphere where you have to be a soulless person willing to do harmful things to other people, so you don't become either known as who you are or get outed for the wrong you've done, that sort of thing. I've mentioned this in several uploads in the past, but it's, heavy symbolism there. If you look at that episode of Black Mirror where these individuals jump through hoops to conceal their past so they don't get outed and get in trouble and in danger, and they just drop the bar lower and lower, put them through all these demoralizing tests and whatnot, only for it to be a big wash. That seems like that's going to happen one of these days. There's just going to be a flood of validation, and things will start being called what they've done. Everything done in the darkness will be brought to the light, and it's going to be traumatizing and horrible for those who never bothered to think that much. They never were willing to make themselves uncomfortable, to broach anything real, to actually be a true peacekeeper in this situation. It's going to get hostile and volatile over time. I know it is. We're just not always going to see it and think about it. We'll just be going through our routine, and then something crazy will occur that rattles our nerves and perhaps maybe even shakes our faith in humanity. Maybe we do see people rise to the occasion sometimes, or to try to be an olive branch rather than it be just an insult to injury that has a predetermined horrible outcome. That's what I seem to think, is a lot of people have predetermined outcomes. I mean, these are cultural engineers that are engineering the future, and if you try to bend their matrix, they could easily do the same thing. They want us to have a demoralizing, uneventful end of our lives that is lacking catharsis and has no meaning, that pisses us off that we even live through. That's simply put, you have to add the meaning to your own life and accept suffering while searching for the meaning. You may not ever get what you're looking for or searching for, but I think the fact that you're willing to make a quest towards that signifies to those who are trying to stop you that you are forced to be reckoned with. You need to just roll with that logic at a certain point, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, every day that occurs, that we move forward in history, they are assimilating, but I and others are going to have to continue to adapt and accept that the test is going to be more difficult than ever before. It's going to piss us off even more, and it's going to feel more defeating. And quite frankly, I just don't care if the universe needs to take me. That's cool with me. I'm totally good with that. Just do what you got to do. But anyway, the path of least resistance is actually what has allowed the evil into people, and it's allowed people with horrible intentions to gain control of the lives of innocent people that are good people. They just may not have that fight in them. They may not have that ability. They may not have that courage to speak. Some people do, and a lot of people are just never going to ascend to that higher version of their self on this plane of reality, perhaps the next one, but they're keeping a lot of things stuck, and it's just a painful thing to know that they're changing fate and destiny on this planet. and to be honest, a lot of people do and have felt the call of duty and have never been able to express it. This is an attack on our conventional way of speaking and communicating, and it's been a communication and comprehension barrier that to me is quite real. I know it is, but it just may not factor into somebody who's just living their normal life, being a normal person. Um, they only want certain people driven to action on this matter if their foresight indicates that it could be a potentially harmful thing, or it have a reverse effect or something that is advantageous for their outcome in these organizations and these institutions whose practices are predominating over our lives. Um, if they can't control the outcome, then they want to destroy the potential of that outcome. Just like if they lose control over people, then they want to destroy those people. They don't want to live in a world where there's anything that they can't control, that is autonomous, that is that builds steam. They want to stop progress before it's made. They look into the future too much. They're cultural engineers, and they're stealing our futures and outcomes, and they're quite frankly shortening our lifespans. There's no way that they're not doing that. They are harmful for the planet, and they're harming everything long term. But we are quite literally, essentially, battling an invisible matrix that is full of unseen threats, that is curated by methodical geniuses that have a lot of advanced knowledge and are good at engineering outcomes that are devastating and traumatizing, but yet they just never meet the light of day. It's almost too horrifying and weird and hard to believe that you can't even speak those types of words. All I can say is that what's going on in the world around me is like Pizzagate, but way more terrible and way more widespread than just one singular event at one singular location, so to speak. Like, this is a theme in the world. These evil pieces of shit sure do know how to inspire each other with their bad ideas. I seem to think that there's quite a few methodical geniuses, even here in my midst in Winston-Salem, that are wolves in sheep's clothing, hiding in plain sight. And I think they know their day is going to come eventually. They're just going to keep riding this wave, and until then, they're just going to gaslight, twist the narrative, and phase people out as they see fit if they're able to. And there's some sick, evil pieces of shit who are going to capitalize on everything, if you know what I'm saying. This is a terrible world that we're living in. I can't not call it what it is, but I thought I would share those points that, pretty much everybody who knows the deal, those are the people who can relay the deal the least, usually. So it's just a weird insult to injury. It's a duality that I personally hate, but I have to be aware of to at least point to the absurdity of it all. This is like an internal freak show, and it's going to become the external freak show as time progresses. But hopefully we can just call it what it is at some point. That'd be refreshing. And even and maybe it ends the planet if we do that. Cool. Maybe that's the sign the planet needs to end. If us coming together to find significance in the spiritual phenomenon is a problem, then I guess that means we just need to end the planet. But anyway, peace.